morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Soul Purpose Show. Good morning. Say good morning.
I'm trying to do this. Good morning.
Okay,
but I'm the tech person in addition to everything else.
But the people are watching us and they want to see your face. And they
understand it, but do you want everybody to see it?
Look, we've been fussing all morning long. She has been getting on my nerves.
Here, take this.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to get through. A Soul Purpose, a special edition Soul Purpose cooking show, and wrap up our best and worst for the week of for the month of January. I'm your host, Keith. This is my lovely co-host, Monica, who you haven't seen in a while. That's why I say that people want to see you, because they haven't seen you in a while. You've given me the microphone for the last, almost the last month. I just want to thank everybody for joining us, whether you're watching us on Facebook Live or YouTube, especially on In Touch News, Internet Radio, where everybody is a star. Shout out to Clint and the professor. Hopefully you enjoyed Straight Up the Middle. Happy New Year. If we haven't talked to you, say Happy New Year. I don't think
I don't think anybody's seen me this year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. We are preparing a special dish for you today. Y'all caught me in a rare mood because, now she want me to move. Y'all caught me in a rare mood today because something historic happened last weekend. As you all know, I am a Tampa native, born and bred in the Tampa Bay area. I was here in 1976 when the NFL awarded a football franchise to the Tampa area. And that franchise was called the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This show is not going to be our Super Bowl show, but just as a preview to this year's Super Bowl, I want you to know that your host is going to be completely off the rails,
If you can, I don't know if you can see me. I don't know if you can see me roll my eyes really hard.
Off the rails. Congratulations to Tampa Bay Bucks and Coach Bruce Arians and his Blackity Black coaching staff.
Yes, he does have a Blackity Black coaching staff.
For making it to the Super Bowl. And people, I'm just gonna say, just be safe. The Super Bowl is coming to Tampa. We're first team in his history to host a Super Bowl. Our team is playing in it. I just want to implore everyone to please be safe. There's lots of gathering going on. We've already seen the gathering. You saw a gathering outside your workplace.
I did see a gathering outside my workplace. I shared it on my Facebook page yesterday because the noise. So the NFL, so the Super Bowl. I think we posted the Super Bowl at least since I've lived here.
We've done 2 or 3 times.
So since I've lived here and I've been here almost 20 years, we've hosted the Super Bowl at least 3 times.
Yes.
So Tampa hosting the Super Bowl is nothing new. But if you've ever been to a town where the Super Bowl is present, there's these Super Bowl experiences.
Yes.
And there's a Super Bowl experience directly across the street from my office downtown. Yes. And there were stages, and I don't know what it was, but there was a lot of loud music being played.
Yes.
And I'm on the 22nd floor, and the bass and whatever testing they were doing shook my window.
Yes. And what is the problem? I don't understand. What is the problem? What is the issue?
So I'm not from here. I'm from South Florida. I am a true blue Miami Dolphins fan. And when you're a Miami Dolphins fan, you recognize that you may not get to the Super Bowl.
You recognize that you're just full of hate to see other teams who
you may not get to the Super Bowl, but I am a true ride or lose Miami Dolphin fan.
Yes.
So I like the Bucks. I actually bought season tickets for my husband a few years ago for his birthday for the Bucks. But I'm not the quarterback. I'm not a Brady fan. And so I made that perfectly clear on my personal Facebook page. I'm excited for Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay folks. I'm excited for the city of Tampa Bay. I'm excited for the players on the team, with the exception of number 12.
But in
I'm
this
excited
house,
about all of that.
But in this house, there's a whole lot of hate going on. This is not the Super Bowl show. Listen,
it's not the Super Bowl show. That's gonna be next week, because next week is the day
before the Super Bowl.
So anyway,
we want to focus on what we're doing today. This is the best and worst of January. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to get into. But the backdrop to this show is going to be a special Super Bowl dish that my lovely wife is going to prepare just for me. And I have no idea what I see. Shrimp, I see scallops. What is this?
Okay, so one of my friends, he's my Facebook friend, but he's a rattler. He's also a chef, and he owns his own seasoning company, Michael Cunningham. We both are Pampered Chef consultants, and we have come this way so people can see my air fryer. Can y'all see the air fryer in the back?
You keep moving me around.
I'm sorry, but I need my space. Sorry, here goes your thing. Okay, so Pamper Chef air fryer, and Michael made a shrimp boil in his air fryer. And I love shrimp. I love shrimp broil. I also love crab, but we didn't put crab in it. But I said I was going to try to do this shrimp boil today. Typically, before I do this, I usually like to test it out before I do it. I have not tested this out, so we don't know how this is going to turn out. But we're going to pray and hope for the best. But that's what as we're talking and doing best and worst, we're going to do a shrimp boil, which can also be an appetizer or a Super Bowl, whatever, if you want to prepare this for a Super Bowl gathering, because hopefully no one's having a party next Saturday, Sunday.
It's going to be lovely. If you're going to gather, only have people at your house that you know are tested, and don't have big gatherings where you're just going to create your own little mini super spreader event.
We don't want that.
All right, so this is a shrimp bowl. We did promise you this is going to be best and worst. We're going to wrap up the month, hit on some highlights. It was a historic month. I know you got to explain to our audience what's going on. So let's do that before we get into our historic month. Okay.
So in this bowl, I have some scallops and some large shrimp, and you keep the shell on the shrimp, because you're gonna put it in the air fryer. You want to ensure that the shrimp doesn't overcook. So shout out to Michael Cunningham, because he sent me a text message when I told him I was going to be cooking this, for ensuring that I did this right. So Mike, if I'm not doing this properly, I'm sure that you will let me know after the show if he's watching.
But it's going to be lovely.
So these are scallops and shrimp. They're frozen. I defrosted them, washed them, rinse them off to ensure that all the whatever impurities are off. But that's what this is. And in this bowl, it's just some salt water. Mm-hmm. And there are 4 white potatoes and 2 ears of corn. We're going to boil those for about 5-7 minutes. You don't want to get them too soft because they're going to cook again in the air fryer. And then that's what we have here.
Outstanding. Well, let's get into this month, January 2021. Now, we've obviously, if you've been following us November and December of last year, you know how we felt about the election, the results of the election. We're thrilled that Vice President Kamala Harris. I've always had to stop every time I say her name, because I'm like, Vice President-elect and Senator Kamala Harris. It's President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. We're super, super excited.
And so for those people who continually mispronounce her name, let's do this again.
Sure.
It is like comma.
Like a comma.
Like the comma, punctuation, comma. Mm-hmm. La.
That's all you got to do.
Comma.
Yes.
La.
It's literally that simple. You have put commas in punctuations all of your life since grade school, comma. It's a comma. That's all you got to do.
Right. So at this juncture, people are mispronouncing her name. Is just y'all just lazy. It's on purpose and it's lazy. Comma, la. It's not that complicated.
And when you get old, like the old folks like to just mess up people's names just because they feel like they can do it. You shouldn't do that though. You shouldn't fall into that category.
But comma. So we talked about that.
So it was historic. So we talked a lot about that last year. So here's what was supposed to happen as we kicked off the year, right? I remember the feeling that we had when Obama Part 1, when he was first elected. Mm-hmm. Going into the inauguration, there was all of this feeling of hope. I didn't really understand what hope and change, like I didn't know exactly what that meant, but I knew that we were in a really, really bad situation as a country at that time. If you remember, we were in a recession, mm-hmm. So things weren't working. People were laid off. Unemployment was high, and so they went into this long, protracted negotiations back and forth with Congress, try to pass some stimulus, bail out the auto industries, mm-hmm. et cetera. So it gave us a sense that our country was kind of coming back. So I felt a little bit of that this year coming into January. That's just kind of my
like a new day.
Like it was a new day. Like we have hope again. Like things are. There's hope for our future. That's how I felt.
I would agree. So if y'all follow me on my personal Facebook page, y'all know during the 4 years I was updating people, irritated, pissed, blood pressure high, just because we had incompetence in the White House for 4 years. And I can honestly say that the morning of inauguration, I woke up because I knew that Trump would be leaving. Like
we haven't got to inauguration.
I
was just talking about January 1st.
Oh, January 1st.
We haven't got to inauguration yet.
Anytime there's a new year, I always it's like a reset button, or just a kind of a continuation, because my prayer at the beginning of every year is that I'm obedient, to God's instruction, and then I followed his instruction faithfully without asking any questions. So that's been my prayer for the last 5 years. So it was a low key. My mommy was here.
Yeah,
my sister was here. We didn't do a whole lot of stuff.
We didn't do a lot of partying and all that
it was
stuff
just we just kind of chilled and brought the New Year's in, saying thank you, Lord, and hoping for a better 2021.
But there was hope.
There was hope, but at the same time, because the idiot was still in office, there was still a bit of what is he going to do? He got 20 days. What is he going to do between now and the 21st of January to really jack stuff up? So it was hopeful, yes, because I knew a new day was coming.
Yep.
But there was still a little concern because he still had his hand on the nuclear code.
So let's do this because I know y'all know we're getting ready to talk about one of the worst things that's happened, not just in the month of January, but just one of the worst things that happened in the history of our country is this insurrection. You are an attorney. So tell the people what was supposed to happen on January 6th. What was significant about what was supposed to happen on January 6th?
Okay, so January 6th is when all of the electoral college votes were supposed to be certified by Congress.
Right.
So I will share, let's back up for a second. So typically, the one good thing about all of this since the election is that the American people have been able to see really how our democracy works. Yeah. Under normal circumstances, when a presidential election happens, we vote and then we don't think anything else about it until inauguration.
Correct.
Because of who we had in the White House and him and his sycophants continue desire to question the results of a free and fair election, we saw the process. We saw the electoral college votes in each of the states. We saw them certified by the states. We saw the judicial process kind of work through that process. If people want to contest, if Trump wanted to contest the election results, we saw that process play through in the judiciary. So we saw each of the three branches of government working as they should work with respect to an election. And so all of that coming into January 6th, which we never really think about in any other election, all the electoral votes are taken up to DC and they have to be certified by Congress. And that's
so
that. Typically it's a nothing burger.
So that was what was supposed to happen. What wound up?
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Pass me that. Just put it there. Yeah, just put the colander there.
So what was supposed to happen, obviously, was one thing. So what did happen was there was a protest rally scheduled.
Switch places.
Okay, here we go again. So there was a protest rally that happened, and there's nothing wrong with protest rallies. We believe in free speech and all that kind of stuff. But this protest was special because it was supposed to gin up enthusiasm for essentially overturning the election by protesting what was actually happening on Capitol Hill at that time. So that's what the protest was supposed to be about. People showing their support for why they didn't think the election should be certified. What wound up happening was there were things said. There were speakers, and including the ex-president himself, who actually ginned the crowd up to march down to the Capitol and protest, but they used very carefully worded verbiage to give them an invitation to kind of stop the process by any means necessary, and that's what wound up happening. So we're not going to go through a play-by-play of the events of that day because we all know it. We had to mention it as our worst of not just the month of January, but probably maybe one of the worst things that's happened during our life. I'm a proud American. I love my country, and what happened was really just disgraceful. But I wanted to point it out because I think it's important. I got someone asked me I got an interview. Somebody interviewed me on one of the local media outlets for just my thoughts and my opinions on what happened. And one of the things I made clear, and it's one of the things I want to leave with our audience, is there is this move to hijack terms that have been a part of our vernacular since the beginning of this country, and that's things like patriot. And liberty and protecting our rights, those kinds of things. So you're going to hear these terms being used by people who are doing just the opposite of what those terms suggest. Patriot suggests a militia, if you will, are people who are willing to band together and defend themselves against foreign enemies. And so now you hear the term patriot being attached to people who are literally trying to overturn the United States as we know it and all of our democratic aims.
Be clear, the people that did that were not patriots. Actually.
And the people who did that are absolutely positively not patriots. And I don't care if they form a patriot party. And by the way, there was already a patriot party. Y'all gonna do some we're gonna send y'all to the library to Google, do some research. There was a patriot party that was formed already that had nothing to do with what these people are talking about. So don't let people hijack those terms. Patriot stands for people who band together against foreign enemy, not band together against the how we do things here in this country. What are you doing, baby?
I'm cutting up. So I've taken the corn and the potatoes they were boiling off of the eye. I have rinsed them off so they won't be too hot for me to touch. Okay. And I'm cutting them up and I'm putting them in my big bowl.
All right, very good. So listen, I'm looking forward to this meal, and I know that it's not time for the Super Bowl yet, but my wife is such a phenomenal wife and partner and loves her husband so much. I'm sure she will probably just make this again in another week if I ask her nice enough. But anyway, that's what was supposed to happen. So let's fast forward now. We saw the ugly event that happened pre-inauguration, and then the inauguration was threatened. We band together as a country and determined that we were going to do two things. One, we were going to provide adequate security for the inauguration itself. And then during the inauguration, what we actually saw was a demonstration of what this country truly is about. And frankly, had it not been for what happened the previous couple of weeks, I don't know that you would have seen as much just overwhelming diversity in every sense of the word. It was almost like a slap in the face to what we saw happening. We saw all people of all colors and ages and sexual orientations and party affiliation. We saw a diverse representation of not just a peaceful transfer of power, but a affirmation of who we are really.
I want to back up for a second to the insurrection. I know you kind of passed on to the insurrection. The thing that boggled my mind and why it wasn't necessarily surprising, and I put this out there, what you saw on the 6th, in addition to it being the most anti-patriotic democratic thing that we've ever seen, was a group of people who have never had any oppression, like legit oppression. You know what I'm saying? They have feigned oppression, but they've never been oppressed about anything, right? And so what you saw was the manifestation of fear, because we all know the statistics, and the statistics are that in a few years, this country will no longer be majority white. People of color will be the majority in this country. And so what you saw was the manifestation of that fear. And so while the folks on the ground that did the insurrection may not have put two and two together, the folks that incited the insurrection and either through silence were complicit in it, or they encouraged it based on their continuing to perpetuate the lie that this election was stolen, are clearly aware of it. They're clearly aware of it, which is why they're continuing to do the things that they're doing. And so I just want to put that.
No, and I appreciate that. And this is obviously not we had a show on anti-racism. We actually talked about the ramifications of terms like, white supremacy and white privilege, and how those terms have worked their way into our vernacular. And there are those who might assume wrongfully that what we're actually saying is that white people are somehow wrong in being white. Like there's something wrong with being white, and that's absolutely not the case.
There's wrong being white. There's wrong with something wrong being a white supremacist and believing that because you're white that you are entitled. There's a sense of entitlement about the things that you are supposed to have.
And I'll go a step further.
Absolutely something wrong with that.
I'll go a step further and say there's something wrong with if you are white and you don't understand that you have been the benefactor of certain advantages. Like historically, for generations in this country, you have been the benefactor, and there's some such a thing as pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. I get all of that, but if your grandparents were vice president of banks, and your great grandparents were landowners and owned land, and your great great grandparents came over in this country and were able to start businesses and those kinds of things. You've been the benefactors of those things, and so to see who was riding out to the Capitol in $50,000 full-size pickup trucks,
or flying there,
or flying in during the week when most of us got jobs. I went to work. I had to go to work that day because I didn't have that kind of time off of work during the week, and with thousands of dollars of guns and ammunition, it's sometimes packed in the truck, and then to claim that you're somehow being victimized and that you're something is being taken away from you is just ridiculous. What are we doing, baby?
So right now in this bowl, y'all can see the bowl? We have sausage. I probably could add one more sausage, but
no, that's fine.
All right, so there's sausage in here, the potato, cut up 4 potatoes, 2 things of corn, and I didn't measure the shrimp and the scallops, but if you get a frozen bag, I did probably half the scallops and half the shrimp. They're all in there.
All right. So listen, we've talked a lot about the
so we did the insurrection,
peaceful transition of power, and the inauguration. The inauguration was beautiful. We're going to talk a little bit more about the inauguration and actually what happened. In the meantime, though, what I want to do is, and we're going to bring him in here in just a moment. I'm going to bring in an individual who made a post this week, and I'm going to set this up. So I'm going to give it some time to kind of set this thing up. So a good friend of ours made a post this week on the heels of another historic happening, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about who Jennifer King is in a moment. But on the heels of, and I'm not putting these two things together. I decided to do that myself, and he didn't. The first female African American assistant coach in the NFL, full time, in the NFL, and this sister is phenomenal. I mean, she is absolutely phenomenal. We'll learn more about her after we come out of the break, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to actually talk to him. But in the meantime, I want you to understand that it has started bringing conversations back to light about roles and about gender specific roles, male roles and female roles. And he's posed a very, very interesting question, which we're actually going to get into, and we're actually going to debate a little bit as well following the break, and that is femininity extinct, and is how we define femininity, is that become extinct? So sit on that. All right. So anyway, so that's that. Here's one of my best things. Tell us what we're doing here, and I'll tell you what one of my best things for the month of January.
Okay, so right now, so I've talked about all the things I put in the bowl, and I just this is a spritzer. A spritzer. There's olive oil in here, and I just sprayed all of this with olive oil, and I'm going to add some pesto, some sun-dried tomato pesto, which I'm not sure that Mike really did, but I know he added pesto, and I think that's what he added.
Do it to it.
But we're going to add this to it, and then we're going to add some Creole seasoning. And you like spice.
Yes.
So I'll add a little red pepper flakes here too.
It's my Caribbean roots.
Yes. So we're going to add probably about a tablespoon. Just add that, maybe a tablespoon and a half.
A little bit more, yeah.
Of that. And then I'm going to mix all this together.
If you're just tuning in, Monica's making a special shrimp boil.
Yes.
And we're doing it using an air fryer, a Pampered Chef air fryer.
Correct.
Which we use a lot in our house. We use it a lot. So this is more than just kind of a testimonial. We actually use it a lot, and it works very, very well. Hey, one of my best of for the month of January, one of the things that happened, I know we've been on this political tip for a while, but something happened that is, I don't want to say it was precedent setting, because since Facebook and Twitter launched, they have had standards that they follow.
Allegedly,
they have standards. They have standards, and they have exercised those standards
inequitably.
Inequitably was inconsistently apply those standards in the past, and they've come under some heat for that. They made a decision on the heels of what they saw as kind of a necessary evil, and that is
they're gonna get sued.
You had individuals who were able to go on Twitter and Facebook
and plan that insurrection
and incite violence. There are already a lot of pro whatever, left, right, radical, gun-toting, feed the homeless people, whatever you're advocating. There are a lot of advocacy groups out there.
Sorry.
But I think what Facebook and Twitter said was like, you know what, enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
We have people who are using our platforms, which is a private platform, and again, I'm glad I'm married to an attorney because she can explain all this stuff. These are private companies, and so literally, they have they have the ability to determine what is good and acceptable for their private platform. It's completely up to them. There's something illegal about them censoring individuals who come into their space and don't follow the rules.
Correct.
And one of the rules is you can't just get on there and incite people to violence and killing people and hurting people. Like you can't do that. You can advocate for one side versus the other side, and I'm pro-Republican, you pro-Democrat, all you want. You can do that all you want, but you can't do it. And so they hit the former sitting president of the United States squarely between the eyes and took away his ability to use their platforms.
Blocked.
And I will tell you that
was that a best for you?
Oh, that was one of the best things that happened to me in a long, long time, because what it did was it showed how this master marketing manipulator
which is what he is,
was able to use a private platform to do the same thing that the mainstream media should have been doing for him, which is propagating the things that move our country forward. He said, well, look, I don't need the mainstream. I can just rail against the mainstream media, and I'll just use these other platforms because I've got 70 million followers or whatever on those platforms, and I'll spew hate, division, and lies on there. And they said, nope, you're not going to be able to do that. And so what happened was his influence absolutely was injured. Now, we can sit up here and argue over whether or not it represents the end of his ability to motivate people and all that kind of stuff, because it probably doesn't.
It definitely handicapped him,
but
just because he wasn't able to corral all of his followers
just like that,
just immediately, right? So when they said, put the kibosh on him being able to communicate, listen, the fact that we have not heard his voice in like a week or more, the fact that we haven't seen a tweet in several, I mean, that should bring some comfort to you. So people, will you not be coughing all over the food?
You made me cough on the food.
No, they just cough that way.
I'm gonna get some water.
Okay, well, but anyway, so that was probably the inauguration was top for me because of the historic nature of it. But right under that was them putting a kibosh on his ability to communicate with his clan,
with his cult. And the other thing that happened concurrently is, again, these are private spaces, so they're privately owned, is that Parler, which was the format that all of them
were going to,
decided to go on, and they were just going to switch over, and they were going to make Parler kind of the new Twitter. Parler also was withdrawn from its distribution network, essentially.
They're dropping from Amazon, iPad and Apple, Amazon, and I guess Android.
Yeah, which essentially means nobody's listening to you.
Yeah.
So you can't come into your house and turn on your stuff and have it and have it be. So what was refreshing about what actually happened is, from a free speech perspective, is no, it was not an attack on free speech. So it was an affirmation that your speech is free. Your ability to incite violence and insurrection and overthrow the United States government, in which you're trying to do business, you can't do it.
So the Constitution allows freedom of speech, but it's not unfettered freedom of speech, which is why you can't run into a crowded building and scream fire and suffer no consequences.
That is true.
So, and as Keith said, Facebook, Twitter, all of those social media spaces are private companies, and they can dictate who comes in and who comes out, or has access to them, or who does not have access to them, and you can be mad about it, but it's not a violation of your freedom of speech. So all of those legislators, who are spewing that, know full well, they should know, at least the lawyers know, that what Facebook and the other social media folks did, which unregulated, because they refused to regulate them, what they did was not a violation of anybody's freedom of speech. It's all puffing.
When we come back out of break, we're gonna bring in the man who's gonna tell us how femininity has become extinct. It's gonna be saucy.
I'm ready for you, Jerry.
It's gonna be saucy. Stay tuned. We'll be right with Soul Purpose Show.
Square, hoping that I would get you there.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
In Touch Radio.
This is Joel Sylvain
and Kevin Carr,
and we're with Power Moves, where celebrities, athletes, key influential executives,
influencers
share how they make money, how they attract power, and how they earn respect. Come join us every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Power Moves
On In Touch Radio.
Wherever we go, we about to bring on the positive vibe.
This is the last Saturday in January. And so what we do on the last Saturday of the month is we kind of rehash best and worst of the month. And this obviously was a month that we had to do a best and worst because there were so many things.
So much wonderful things.
So many things that happened. So many great things and so many not so great things. One of the things, and I'm going to set this up because I want to bring in our buddy Jerry, who's an additional guest we're going to be able to hear from. But one of the things that happened during the month was a historic promotion of a Black female by the name of Jennifer King. I'm going to, for our viewers, I'm going to share a little bit about who Jennifer King is. I found a really good article.
As you look that up, I want to interrupt real quick.
Yeah,
so I have added to this. If you missed the first half, I'm making a shrimp boil on the air fryer. Shout out to Michael Cunningham for this is his creation, and so I'm trying it out on our Pampered Chef air fryer. So I've added the shrimp, the scallops, cut up some corn, some sausage, some potatoes. Added some tomato pesto, added some Creole seasoning and little red pepper flakes because Keith likes stuff spicy. And now I'm going to put this in the basket. And then as Keith is talking about Jennifer King, I'm going to then put this into the air fryer for 20 to 24 minutes at 300 degrees. 24 minutes, 300 degrees. Okay, I just wanted to put that out there.
Jennifer King has been hired as a full-time position assistant coach in the NFL for the Washington football team. It used to be the Washington Redskins. She's the first African-American female full-time assistant coach. The other full-time female assistant coach actually coaches for the Bucks. And this sister is a bad chick. Let me just read you a couple little highlights. She is known for having a high football IQ and winning. She loved when she was a player. She loved playing wide receiver because she was good and she was fast. She was extremely athletic, but her coaches insisted on having her be the quarterback of the team because of her ability to understand what was going on the field and make things happen. So she's really kind of a natural born leader. She spent time as an intern in Carolina for the Carolina Panthers. She's still young. She has a long coaching career ahead of her. But I will tell you, I'm excited about what the future holds for this young lady because, and I had a chance to see an interview with her. She's very humble as well. But she is on track to probably be either a coordinator, either offensive or defensive coordinator, probably the first, and maybe even the first head coach in the NFL before this thing is all over with. So God bless her. It brings up an interesting question, though, in the NFL. So coaches for the NFL, which is the men's football league, really represent individuals who have to motivate men, the athletes who are at the height of their physicality, motivate them, teach them, coach them, train them, etc. It has been a male-dominated industry forever and ever, because you are the coach in the locker room, out of the locker room, on the sideline, and everywhere else. And so the question I have for Jerry, we're gonna bring Jerry in. The question I have for Jerry is do women belong on the sideline of the National Football League? Jerry, look, I'm throwing you right in the middle of this thing, man.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I tell you, this is unfamiliar territory with me with the Zoom, so I don't know if I have it proper or not.
You proper, man. We can hear you.
We can hear you, but we can't see you. But that's fine.
Oh boy.
Well, we don't need. Listen, you may after this conversation, you may want to remain anonymous for people who don't know you.
That's right.
I'm joking. I'm completely joking.
Look, you had come into the Lions Den, man. You posted a question, and some of your viewers actually responded, thinking that you were making one statement and you were actually making another statement. We figured we'll allow you to come onto the show, man, and just tell people kind of what was going on in your head when you posted the post that said, "Hey, look, it's femininity."
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I think this conversation, it came up the other day because I asked a question. I wondered, was femininity extinct? And the comments I got, I wasn't expecting, even from my wife. And I think because I don't think they really understand what I was saying, or maybe some of them understood and they just sometime a kick dog a holler, you know.
So I'm going to give you, because of what I do, I want you to explain what it is you meant, because I think is femininity extinct is a loaded question, and so I did not see the responses, but I can only imagine what they were. So I would like for you to explain what it is you meant. And then, I don't always, on a basic level, I don't agree with that, but I do want to give you an opportunity to explain what you meant when you said that.
I mean, you see it every day in the a lot of the comments was, well, we're thrust in this now. We have to take care of our kids. A lot of us are divorced. A lot of us are raising children on our own. We have full-time jobs, and I understand that. But my point is that's not what I'm talking about. To be feminine and still be a woman, it's a lot on a woman. It's a lot expected from a woman. Just make that point clear. They are providers. They hold down jobs. They raise family, and that's a good thing. We started pushing that years ago, decades ago, and you heard fathers and mothers telling their daughters, don't depend on a man. Don't depend on a man. You got to be able to take care of yourself. And that's wonderful. But what we didn't push is, okay, one day you might be a wife. You got to know how to take care of your husband. You got to know how to make that balance. And that balance is fading away. I think with a lot of professional women, and you can see that in them being married. A lot of them are not being married, anymore. And I think a lot of it has to do with not being able to balance. I've been doing this by myself, and I can do it, and so I really don't need you to come in and mess up what I got going on. But you have to balance that, because a real man don't want to come into where he can't do anything. Where he can't help you, or a man has to feel like he's needed, and he has to come in and do the things that men do. Okay. And if you're not going to allow those things to take place, and if you can handle all those things, then he's going to go the other way. He's going to go the other way.
So I'm going to push back a little bit, because some of the things I do agree with, but I do want to push back a little bit on this notion. in terms of women who are not married and the reason that they're not married. And if I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, then obviously please correct me. I know a lot of women, professional women, who are single in their 40s, and it's not by choice. And to me, it's not based on what they do or what they don't do or what they're unwilling to do. It really is, because the Bible says that he that findeth. It don't say that she that findeth, right? It don't say that. It says that he that findeth. And so I think to put I think sometimes in society, what we do is we put the onus on women to change who they are in order for a mate, in order to find a mate, right? And we're just talking about heterosexual relationships here, because that's what I can only speak with authority on what I know. But I think we put the onus on women unfairly to fundamentally change who we are in order to attract a man. And we don't put that same responsibility or onus on men to change who they are in order to be attracted, right? So I'm a lawyer. Keith will tell you I'm a type A personality. I am accustomed to being in charge and taking control of situations. I will agree, Jerry, that when I got married, there's a balance that you have to play in that, right? So I don't think that we feed into traditional roles, because we'll be, when we first got together, there was some untraditional stuff. Yeah. But we kind of feed into traditional roles, but I don't cook because Keith says that's what his expectation is. I cook because I like to cook. And and if I make a decision I don't want to cook one day, he's not going to go hungry. He's going to figure it out. But I will agree, Jerry, that there's oftentimes that I have to lift my hands, but I've told Keith, and I told him this before we got married, and he was very clear about this. I didn't need Keith when we got married. I wanted to be married to Keith, which is different. And so that I think there's a mindset that for a woman for a man to be attracted to a woman, she has to make him feel like he's needed. And I don't fundamentally agree with that. I think that that's the problem.
That's the problem. That's what
that was supposed to make you feel like you need it.
That's what the man is.
See, Monica, this is the problem. You built your own identity.
Correct.
You're very successful without Keith. You made that way, but now you got to go back to where the Bible says. You got to be submissive to him, and that's hard for you to do because you've been in control all of your life. So,
but the Bible
we're not expecting you to change. We're expecting you to change back to what it's supposed to be. You can still keep your identity. You know, nobody's taking your identity. You're still who you are, but you got to balance that now because you're the one changed from what you were supposed to be into what you had to be.
Okay, and so I'm gonna push back a little bit on that. Yes, the Bible says submit thyself, but the Bible also tells a man to love your wife as Christ loved the church, and that's a sacrificial type love. And there's a lot of brothers out there that aren't willing to do that type of Christ sacrifice for their wife. So let's be clear. If you all want women to submit, as the Bible, since we're talking, and I'm not a minister, so if there's a minister or a preacher watching and I'm misquoting something, then please feel free to correct me. But just men have a tendency to say, well, the Lord says submit. Oh, the Lord does say, the Bible does say, wife, submit to your family, to your husband, does say that. But the Bible also says that man love your wife as Christ loved the church. And that was a sacrificial love. That was a sacrificial type love and a sacrifice that I will share with you that based on the interactions that I know of some single men who I know say they want to be married, there are some sacrifices that they're not willing to make. Right, in order to be in a relationship with a woman, so it's a two-part thing.
Let me jump
if I'm a submit, you got to be able to sacrifice like Christ would sacrifice for the church.
Let me jump in real quick, and Jerry, hang on, because I want to get your thoughts on this as well. The question is femininity extinct? And I'm hearing a lot of traditional roles versus non-traditional roles, and women having to take care of things without male involvement.
True.
Here's what I'm challenging both of you guys on, and that is femininity. Here, let me help you. Let me read what Wikipedia says. Femininity, a set of attributes, behaviors, and roles generally associated with women and girls. Although femininity is socially constructed, research indicates that some behaviors considered feminine and are biologically influenced, and to what extent is subject to debate. So my question really is, because y'all talking about heterosexual.
Yeah, we got way off the subject.
Yeah, because femininity really is, I'm trying to figure out what exactly are the things other than being able to procreate and have a child. What things, what attributes are y'all attributing?
It ain't y'all.
To what I'm saying for the purpose of this discussion, what attributes are you attributing to being feminine? And we're gonna bring Professor Clint in on this in a minute. Go ahead, Jerry.
And Jerry, I want that.
Honestly, what I was, Monica and I, we went into something else, and that's another topic. But when I put that on that, when I put that post down, it wasn't about what Monica and I was just talking about.
Right.
But that's a whole different subject, but it's a good subject, and nevertheless. But what I was talking about with femininity is more of how the women carry themselves now to versus how they carried themselves back in the day. To how they act. Not all of them, because you still have a lot of women that way, but a lot of women act more boyish. Even in their dancing, they kind of dance more like guys dance. It's not a feminine dance anymore. It's not, it's not, and I'm going to use an example, and I don't want nobody to take it out of context, but if you ever had no, I'm not going to use that because they might come back to haunt me.
Let me help you because Clint is on. So listen, here's where we are. Clint, what has happened on this show for the second half of our show is that two individuals have gone to the Bible. They have nullified all homosexual, feminine qualities that don't exist. Because we're only talking about heterosexual.
That is not true.
They refuse to answer the question, what traits or attributes are actually feminine? Clint, help us out, man.
Before you intervene, before you say anything.
The man is a guest.
Okay, well, wait a minute. We didn't know Clint was coming, first of all. You always welcome, but we didn't know Clint was coming. What I want to say is that's Jerry's definition. Don't try to pollute me into Jerry. That's Jerry's definition. Me being a lawyer me being a lawyer would not be considered feminine. So that's a social construct. I'm a pass it to you, Clint, but don't be trying to loop me in with Jerry said. That's not what I said.
Ladies and gentlemen,
before we jump in, I'm going to say these two things, and I know y'all probably heard it growing up. You never heard your mama anyone says that, that's not how a lady's supposed to act. Or you never heard somebody say, oh, that little boy got feminine qualities. Have you heard these things before?
Of course.
I have. That doesn't mean that they're right. That doesn't mean that they're right.
Okay, look, y'all arguing. Clint, help us out, man. Bail us out of this.
Well, the first thing I have to say is this, is the world has changed drastically so fast, you're almost building the structure in your relationship that applies only in your relationship. Right. So the reference to what was done in the past, you're in trouble. You know, my mom used to have us go catch a chicken, cut him up, fry him up while she made her own biscuits. I'd be out of my mind to think my wife's gonna put that kind of work in to make a meal. In fact, as Samantha told me once, when I said, I've been waiting on you to cook. She said, well, that's pretty stupid because I was asleep. How do you expect somebody to sleep to cook? You better come with a set of rules that work in your relationship. And if you base it on anything in the past, I think we get problematic. But here's what I really want to say is about the lady coaching. Women have always been able to do pretty much everything men can do unless it's limited by physicality, just muscle mass and strength. They've just not been given those opportunities.
Correct.
Sometimes their skill set is better equipped. And I think one of the biggest things a coach must do, he has to be an effective communicator. And I think women are much better at oftentimes communicating. Men, we presume you heard what I said and you understood what I said, and we're shocked later on when somebody says they're confused. So I like the idea of having women in the mix. And how about this? Watch me now. So many boys are being raised by women. They respond to a female voice better because that's what they've been used to hearing guide them. And a coach is guiding, he's coaching. And I'm not gonna say whether it's right or wrong. I'm dealing with the reality of it. Because y'all tell you this, you show me a boy who was not raised by a male figure in his life, and you let some man come try to give him the what for speech, he can't hear any of it.
Right.
Because he is not used to hearing that. in his communication. So I'm excited about what this means. And the basketball, they've had women coaching basketball over the Spurs for a number of years.
Correct.
So I think that's the thing that jumped out at me. I'll leave the relationship stuff alone for the moment. That's another Soul Purpose show. But we were listening, and you were dropping that seafood in that fryer, and we were trying to figure out, is that 22 minutes or 24 minutes?
20 to 24 minutes in the air fryer in the basket. 20 to 24. It's on minutes now. I'm about to take it out.
You know what I'm doing when I go drop that in for Matthew, when I go back in the kitchen.
Can I ask the question?
Absolutely, Jerry. Go ahead.
Do you feel like women coaching in the NFL, eventually there's going to be a problem, or eventually the game is going to change because they're in there?
Absolutely not. The same argument could be made. Let me tell you. So this is how antiquated. I love you, Jerry. But this is how antiquated that mindset is. People had that same argument when women became lawyers, right? That if you allow women, there's nothing wrong with change. There's nothing wrong with growth. People said the same thing when women became doctors, when we became lawyers, because ideally in this patriarchal society, you believe that women were supposed to be limited to being a teacher, to being a nurse. Nothing wrong with either one of those professions, but women are not limited in their mindset or in their intellect in order to, in terms of those two professions. People said the same thing about the legal profession. People said the same thing about the medical profession, doctors. People said the same thing about politics. And if we continue to feed into those antiquated mindsets about what women can do or what women shouldn't do, because men are afraid of it changing their level of comfort, we wouldn't have a female vice president of the United States. So I fundamentally reject the fact that because you got a female coach in the NFL that is going to fundamentally change the game. I think that she's there because she's qualified, and I think she's going to do a phenomenal job.
This is what I say. I feel like there's some things that men should do, and there's some things that women should do.
You need your face on here so people can find you, Jerry. You need to put your face on here.
No, let me keep. You don't feel like that. You don't feel like it's something. You don't feel like it's some things that just women should have their thing they do, and some things men should have their things they do.
Let me throw this in. It is. I was raised my mom was very, very traditional in her role until she became a single mother, and I was stunned at suddenly how much this woman could do. And I always thought, well, where was this at before? And I realized she wasn't being allowed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that in my marriage and my relationship. There are no boundaries really on what my wife can or cannot do. I will say this though, in my head, ultimately, it's my responsibility to care for, protect, all those kinds of things. I work hard at trying not to manifest that and how I handle our relationship. But in my head, I'm thinking if somebody break in, I'm the one that's getting the gun and I'm gonna take care of this. In my head anyway. Or if the car breaks down, in my head. But in our functionality, I try to take a mindset where the door is left open, because otherwise I lose all the value she brings in a relationship by putting these artificial boundaries around roles that we do. Because I tell you this, she cannot touch me on making an omelet for breakfast. She won't even can't get near me. I make some of the best meals that she can't even touch. But then again, her macaroni and cheese is better than mine. But cooking is open door. Whoever wants to go at it, make it.
What I'm saying is that you know how boys are, men. Just say, for instance, they're on the sideline talking trash. You know how sometimes we can get filthy in the mouth. How's that going to come across on that woman coach of how you feel?
Jerry, have you
hold on. They got a picture on the internet of I think it's a college team. I'll send it to you. And they were in the huddle. I mean, they were trying to see that the player make the first down. So you had the woman coach in there and everybody looking over to see that they get the first down. Well, one of the players kind of placed his hand on her lower back, not trying to do anything wrong, but he's trying to look and see that they get the first down. Well, they made a big deal out of it. Like, why did he put his hand there? What's going on there? I'm just saying you open yourself up for a whole bunch of different things when you allow.
Jerry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, that's all. I'm just trying to make a point that you're opening yourself up for a lot of things when you interject all these things into one.
Huh?
You know? Listen. So we have 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes to the end of the show. We can have another. We can do another session on this.
We have
but,
1 minute.
Yeah.
1 minute. But I will share this, Jerry. I will share this. For any father of a daughter, I am blessed that my father, who was a traditional man, in terms of just his mindset, taught both of his daughters that we could do anything we wanted to do. My father taught me and my sister how to check the air in a tire, which typically, based on your definition, Jerry, would be something that's really confined to men.
That's not.
I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, but I'm saying that could be an extension of what you're suggesting, that there are certain roles for women, certain roles for men. And what I'm suggesting is we have to eliminate that mindset. I understand what you're saying, but that could be the same in any profession where you have a man, you have a profession that is dominated by men, and there will be men in that space that are going to be inappropriate with the women that are there. That's not going to change fundamentally the NFL. Is not going to change fundamentally any major professional sports team. You got to check that person who's doing something inappropriate.
Let me lead this off with this. I believe a woman can do anything a man can do. I believe a woman should get paid the exact same thing a man get paid if she's doing the same job. But I do believe there's certain jobs that women are better at and certain jobs that men are better at. And the thing is, just because you can doesn't mean you always should. That's all.
All right, so listen, Jerry. Let me just do this. Number one, I want to compliment you. I think your stance is growing more and more unpopular as we continue to evolve socially. We are going to have you back on. We're going to have a show dedicated to traditional roles of males and females. And I'm going to put a button on our show today by number one, thanking you for coming on. I want to thank Attorney Clint Paris from Straight Up the Middle.
Very welcome. Y'all are welcome.
For coming on. I want to thank my lovely wife who is prepared. This looks awesome, y'all. I wish y'all could. I wish y'all could.
You know you don't live that far now.
Live and in person.
You don't live that far.
Come on over and get a taste of it. But I would be remiss if I didn't take us out on this. That looks awesome. And that's a Pampered Chef air fryer.
Pampered Chef air fryer. And then I want to shout out Mike. He makes this calabrioso. It is, and I probably mispronounced it. It's a seasoning, and he just sprinkled this on top of it. And it's done.
One of the best and worst of January. This is hot off the press, folks. We want to honor Miss Cicely Tyson
and Hank Aaron,
life,
both of them,
and Hank Aaron's life. We lost some iconic individuals, but especially since we got off on this whole this femininity extinct question. She is one of the quintessential models, I think, of strong black women.
Absolutely.
So
thank you, Jerry, for jumping into the
Great show, guys. Bye bye.
And we will see. We will see everyone next week right here on the Soul Purpose Show, right here on In Touch News, where everyone is a star. Be blessed, y'all.
See y'all later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.